The CEO wants to take my kidney for his first love. I was drugged and sent to a private hospital, but little did he know, the surgeon was my own brother. I begged the CEO to leave with me quickly, but he refused. What he didn't know was that once he stepped into this hospital, he would never leave alive. Because my brother is a serial killer, my mother is a professional at dismembering bodies, and my father is a sociopath. And I am the family's precious darling. I won't sign this contract. I looked up at Lucas Sterling, pushing back the document that would require me to sell my kidney. It's okay, Lucas. Don't force Arya. As long as you're with me in my final days, that's enough. Sophia, sitting next to Lucas, spoke softly. I stared at them, trying to control my emotions despite telling myself not to care about them anymore. To an outsider, they might look like a couple. In reality, I was Lucas's girlfriend of 2 years. Seeing Sophia's understanding attitude, Lucas's gaze towards me grew even more disdainful. Arya, I've already promised you that once you donate a kidney to Sophia, you can marry into the Sterling family. You won't have to work, and you'll have everything you need. It'll be 100 times better than your current life. His tone made it sound like I was the one begging him to marry me. But 2 years ago, he had promised that I would be the future Mrs. Sterling. I sighed and stood up to leave, but Lucas grabbed my hand. The warmth of his touch made me feel momentarily disoriented. How long had it been since he last held my hand? Lucas's face showed a hint of anger. Arya, I've never lost my temper with you before. Don't push me. After a pause, as if realizing he had spoken too harshly, he added, be a good person, Arya. A good person? Does being good mean handing over my kidney without question? To a homewrecker? Not wanting to look at the two of them any longer, I shook off his hand and walked out of the room. Forget it, Lucas. Let's break up. Lucas, it's okay. Maybe Miss Reed doesn't like me and feels I'm interfering with your relationship. I heard Sophia's sobs and Lucas's angry voice behind me. Arya, don't regret this. Back in my rented apartment, I lay down on the bed. 2 years ago, I had come to this city alone. My first job was at a company owned by the Sterling family. As a newcomer, I was often assigned difficult tasks, which meant frequent overtime. Lucas, as the newly appointed CEO, was also working late to familiarize himself with the business. That's how we met. He said there was a light in my eyes that kept him going whenever he felt tired. Later, he confessed his feelings, and we started dating secretly. Since that day when I suggested breaking up with Lucas, he never came to find me. I thought he had given up, so I felt relieved. But I had underestimated his love for Sophia. I was sleeping in my own small bed, but when I woke up again, I found myself lying in a hospital bed in a private clinic. My phone had been taken away. Lucas placed a meal in front of me and said coldly, eat more and get some sleep these few days. If anything happens to your kidney, don't blame me for being harsh. After Lucas left, I slowly ate the food in the box. There's no point in fighting against your own body. Besides, eating more would give me strength to escape. After finishing the meal, in the afternoon, I started to plan my escape route. I saw a map of the entire hospital in the corridor. The main entrance was definitely not an option. Lucas might have instructed the reception nurses. My only choice was the back door. As night fell, I slipped out of the ward and made my way to the back door. I couldn't open it, but I could climb over the wall. Just as I was about to leave, I heard faint cries for help that caught my attention. Without much thought, my first instinct was to help. I ran towards the source of the sound without hesitation. What I saw was a man with his hands and feet bound, all 10 fingers cut off. I stood there, momentarily stunned. This method of torture was all too familiar to me. Lost in thought, I didn't notice the man's terrified gaze behind me. The next moment, a gentle yet cold voice sounded behind me. Peeking at someone else's murder isn't what good girls do, you know. As he walked past me, the familiar face in the moonlight triggered my horrifying memories. I felt as if someone was choking me. I couldn't speak. He walked up to the man and swiftly stabbed him. The man fell to the ground, no longer breathing. At the same time, I heard someone calling my name from a distance. Arya, Arya, you'd better not let me catch you, or you're done for. Hearing Lucas's voice at this moment made me want to laugh. How much did Lucas care about Sophia to come to the hospital himself so late at night to look for me? A flashlight beam shone over, and a security guard shouted, Miss Reed is here. The person behind me discreetly blocked the corpse, and then Lucas immediately ran over. His action of hiding the body was completely unnecessary. The night was dark, he was standing behind a tree, and it wasn't easy to see. Plus, Lucas only had eyes for me at that moment and paid no attention to anyone else. He grabbed my hand without a word, the huge force making my wrist hurt. Arya, you're getting more and more disobedient. Is it so hard to donate a kidney? It's not like I'm asking for your life. He yelled at me. Sophia only has 6 months to live. She's so gentle and kind. How can you bear not to save her? Saying this, he dragged me back to the ward. Before leaving, I looked back one last time. In the moonlight, the man stood there with a cold expression, his gloomy gaze fixed on Lucas. I couldn't help but shudder. Back in the ward, taking advantage of the fact that we were alone, I frantically said to Lucas, let's leave this place, it's dangerous. Lucas disgustedly pushed me away, and I hit the hospital bed. Arya, I'm warning you, don't try these useless tricks. Do you think I'd believe your nonsense? If you try to escape again, don't Don't blame me for breaking your legs. I stared blankly at the man before me. Judging from his expression, he was serious. But just a month ago, he was holding my hand, planning how to celebrate our 2-year anniversary. Why could a person change so dramatically in just 1 month? Just then, Sophia walked in gracefully, dressed in white. As soon as she saw me, her eyes turned red. Miss Reed, it's all my fault. If it weren't for me, Lucas wouldn't be angry with you. Does it hurt? She came forward, her hand stroking my forehead, but out of Lucas's sight, she pressed down hard. I cried out in pain and pushed her away at the same time. "Ah!" She screamed even louder than me. Lucas immediately bent down anxiously to help her up, then glared at me angrily. "Aria, I really misjudged you before. You're too vicious. How could I have been with a woman like you?" With that, he picked up Sophia and carried her out of the ward. Before leaving, he looked back at me coldly. "Aria, if you behave and donate your kidney to Sophia, I'll forgive you. Otherwise, you know what will happen." Sophia's health had been deteriorating recently, so she was also arranged to be hospitalized. After she was admitted, Mrs. Sterling, whom I had only met once, came to the hospital for the first time ever. Sophia's bed was set up next to mine. Mrs. Sterling stroked Sophia's hand, smiling brightly as she said, "Sophia, dear, get well soon and marry our Lucas." Sophia's face turned red with embarrassment. "Auntie, don't say that. Miss Reed is still here." Only then did Mrs. Sterling glance at me coldly, before turning back to Sophia with a complete change in attitude. "Only a smart and beautiful girl like you is worthy of our Lucas. Don't worry, the Sterling family only recognizes you as our daughter-in-law. I won't bother with any other riffraff." I lowered my head silently. Since my phone had been taken away, I didn't even have anything to distract myself with. So the Sterling family wasn't cold to everyone, it was just because I wasn't their chosen one. "Mom, what are you saying?" The door to the ward opened, and a voice sounded in front of me. "The important thing now is to cure Sophia. I won't be with such a vicious woman anyway." As he spoke, I felt a gaze fall on me. I looked up. 2 men were standing in front of me. One was Lucas, and the other. I looked over, but after meeting his eyes, my pupils contracted, and my body began to tremble uncontrollably. "I want to leave. I want to leave right now." I pulled back the covers, intending to leave, but Lucas, thinking I didn't want to donate my kidney to Sophia, forcefully pushed me back onto the bed. Because of Sophia's worsening condition, Lucas had been quite anxious these past few days. "All right, doctor, do an examination. If there's no problem, arrange the surgery as soon as possible," Lucas said to the man beside him. The man's eyes swept over me with an ambiguous smile, and after finishing my examination, he went outside to talk with Lucas. Mrs. Sterling also left, reminding Sophia to call her after the surgery so she could come take care of her. With no one else around, Sophia dropped her hypocritical facade and walked to my bedside. Her finger traced along my waist as she smiled. "This kidney will soon belong to me." I looked at her and coldly uttered 2 words, "homewrecker." Sophia snorted lightly. In relationships, the one who isn't loved is the 3rd wheel. Blame yourself for being a toad lusting after swan meat, inserting yourself between Lucas and me. I looked at her seriously and said, "It's not too late to leave now, otherwise you'll face retribution." Retribution? I've never believed in such things. But I should kindly remind you, you only have less than a day left to live. Sophia smiled mockingly, looking at me like a victor. "I've bribed Dr. Ethan Reed, who will perform your surgery. You'll die on the operating table, and both your kidneys will be mine. Lucas will be mine too." I turned my head indifferently. Sophia didn't know I couldn't possibly die on the operating table, because the person performing the surgery was my own brother. After Sophia finished talking to me, she went out to find Lucas. There were many security guards outside, so I had no chance of escaping. The next moment, the door was pushed open, and a gentle-looking man walked in. But having grown up with Ethan, I knew very well that his gentleness was just a facade, and he was actually a serial killer.